All of us reach a point in time where we are depleted and need to somehow find a way to reignite the fire within. But how do we spark that flame? Welcome to Reignite Resilience, where we will venture into the heart of the human spirit. We'll discuss the art of reigniting our passion and strategies to stoke our enthusiasm. And now, here are your hosts, Natalie Davis and Pamela Cass.
Welcome back to another episode of Reignite Resilience. I am your co-host, Natalie Davis, and I'm so excited to be back with you all. And joining me, of course, is your co-host, Pam Cass. Hello, Pam. How are you today?
I am fabulous. We are joking that it's a holiday week, so it's Tuesday, which is really everybody thinks it's a Monday. It feels very much like a Monday, but good news is it's the end of our day and we're already at Wednesday. So there's
I
go.
am like all over the place. I was chatting with one of my girlfriends and she was actually working on Sunday. So I assumed Sunday was Monday. And when I got into Monday, I thought it was Tuesday. And now today I had to continuously remind myself it's Tuesday. Today is Tuesday now.
Yeah.
Now it's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday, but you know what? It's going to be a great week. You and I just made dinner plans, which we haven't seen each other in person in, I can't even remember.
Oh yeah. I want to say the spring. I bet it was down in
That
Denver.
is so sad. It's probably it's absolutely ridiculous. And
it is crazy.
totally,
Yes.
it's September. It's our birthday month, and we
It is.
celebrate the whole month. And so we're gonna get together and have some laughs and reconnect and yeah. And so I know you've got a big hike that you're gonna do this weekend. I'm coming off, and I'll share with our audience. My son was in a car accident last week and totaled his car, and that's that call you don't ever want to get where, and I was showing a property and I was at a place where I didn't have any cell coverage. And so his calls weren't coming through, but he sent me a photo, which it didn't come through. And I just pressed it to download it and was going about my business. And then I turn it over and it's a picture of, his car and the whole front end gone. And I just, had this complete panic attack. And you don't realize how out of control you feel in that moment when you can't be there to and thank goodness my client knows my son and she's like, oh my gosh, what we can go, it's fine. And thank goodness, he just needs physical therapy. Car can be replaced, he can't be replaced, but it's one of those things where you don't ever want to go through it. So it's been quite the week of
Roller coaster of emotions. And is he okay? Like he's doing okay?
he just needs physical therapy. He's banged up. His airbags didn't go off for some reason, which they should have. All things considered, the other driver charged with reckless driving because he absolutely turned in front of. And I'm very blessed because Dylan used to have a motorcycle, and where he was going, he always rode his motorcycle to save gas money, and he sold it about a month ago. And so if he had been driving his motorcycle, it probably would have been different. And so I'm just like, this, the universe was watching out for him. And so, don't ever be mad at people, always check in with people and cherish every single second of every day.
100%. Well, I'm glad that he's okay. I saw that picture and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And there have been a lot of accidents that, like, just heading out today, there were like 3 or 4 accidents as I was just leaving my house today. It's that time of year, or people are just so preoccupied with other things that they're not paying attention. And anyways, pay attention, people. That's what we're going to say.
School's back in session and the kids are driving again, and some of them are new drivers. So be careful out there. Pay attention.
Fun times. Exactly. Well, I'm glad that Dylan is good.
Yes.
We have a guest today, and I'm excited. I will just turn it over to you, Pam. Why don't you tell our listeners who's joining us? I'm excited to dive into the topic and the conversation because it's something that I think that is on, I'll make that an I statement. It's something that's been on my radar as I start to uncover or peel back layers of my belief system and realizing that the things that are in that belief system are not necessarily my stuff and wondering where it came from. So I'm excited to talk about I'm not going to say what we're talking about. I'm excited to talk to our guest today.
I think this is going to resonate with a lot of people. So today we have joining us Emma Lyons. She is a trauma-informed healer and founder of the Trauma Matrix, where she helps women break up with the shame voice that's been sabotaging their success, relationships, and visibility for years. After studying law and international human rights, Emma turned away from a life path that looked good on paper but felt like slow death, and spent the next decade deep in the healing world. Despite all the therapy, yoga, mindset work, and energy practices, she still found herself stuck in loops of self erasure, burnout, and invisibility until she uncovered the deeper truth. She internalized a narcissistic system of control, and it was running her from the inside out. Today, Emma helps high functioning, heart led women dismantle that inner narcissist, the shame voice that humiliates, controls, and impersonates them so they can reclaim clarity, power, and nervous system freedom. Wow. That's amazing. I mean, I am so excited to go through this topic with you. And so I'm going to hand it over to you, Emma, for you to kind of share with us this work. And I'd love to hear, I mean, law school, what got you into this? Like, what made you go down this path?
Well, that's a great introduction. So great to be here with you ladies. And yeah, love the vibe of what you've got going on here. So what made me I studied law because I always wanted to help people. But what I realized is that I was just trying to, sorry, there's some background noise here. Can you hear it?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So I thought I would do law and human rights law because I thought that would be a great way to help people. But when I started studying it, I found myself really feeling kind of empty inside, and I was burning myself out. I was working as well on the side while I was studying, and I just realized that it wasn't for me. You might be in, some people might relate. You're in a job and you just know this is not it. Maybe the money's good. Maybe it looks good on paper, but you know that every day at the end of the week, you just leave feeling dead. And that was me. I knew that I couldn't be a lawyer because it just didn't feel, it felt like a total mismatch. And I knew that I would have just been putting myself up for a lifetime of misery to try to do something that wasn't aligned. So that was it. And I was really struggling. I didn't know what my purpose was. So I was like freaking out. What's my purpose? Kind of midlife crisis, but quarter life crisis. And I had been depressed since a child. So I found healing work, energy work, yoga, and that really helped me. But when I realized I wanted to do this work and put it out there, when I tried to do that, I kept on bumping up against barriers because being visible was really hard for me, and I struggled with a lot of self-sabotage, procrastination. Even when I did all the things wouldn't quite connect for me. So it wasn't until I really uncovered the layer that was underneath it, which was the shame that I had been absorbing since I was a child, which came from a kind of a narcissistic family system. And these narcissistic are dysfunctional families. And by the way, most families are dysfunctional. They've said about 80% of families in the Western world are dysfunctional. And these are families where basically you have a lot of unprocessed trauma that gets passed down through the family line. And you have different roles. So what happens in these dysfunctional families is the children, they get assigned roles, that identities they have to play out. So there's a scapegoat, there's the golden child you might recognize from your own family, like the favorite, the one who's wrong. And the scapegoat basically becomes, and it's often the most sensitive child in the family who gets that role. You basically become the landfill for all the unprocessed shame and guilt and stuff from the family that nobody else wants to deal with. And just this families tend to be very unmeshed and very unhealthy and very much driven by shame. So it wasn't until I started to uncover that and the fact that my mom has a lot of covert narcissistic traits because the abuse was invisible to me as a child, since a child. I thought it was my fault. I thought it was normal to be suicidal, normal to be depressed, And nobody noticed because I was also kind of the invisible one, the exile within my family. So it wasn't until I came to that layer and started working with that deeper shame, then things really started to come together for me. Because before that, it was like I was doing all this healing and therapy and all this talking about it. But it's kind of like doing feng shui on the furniture when the house is on fire, you know? It's like it might feel kind of better. You might get 1 second of relief, but the house is on fire, you
What's the
know. We
point?
need to
Exactly.
we
The
need to
house
we
on
need to stop
fire.
the fire first.
Yes.
So it wasn't until I started to really address that and the root cause of this voice that I'd internalized from the toxic family and the shame that had kind of been impressed on me from a narcissistic mother. So from a young child, I took on these beliefs and I was like, where does it come from? They're beliefs similar to someone who's been sexually abused. So I was like, what's happened to me? Why am I like this? I had beliefs like I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm a failure, I'm useless, all that kind of stuff. Like really, really hardcore. And I was constantly trying to push myself to prove that I was enough and constantly being disappointed. And that was the cycle that I was in until I realized this deeper level and started to, disconnecting myself from that dysfunctional Wi-Fi of my family and really reclaiming my power and disconnecting from this narcissist that I'd internalized because I realized that yeah, I'd been brought up in a dysfunctional narcissistic picture. I was still the police. The jailer was inside my head. I call it the inner narcissist. It's often called the inner critic. This because this voice, it's exactly like a narcissist, guys. It gaslights you. It makes you quit. That didn't happen. You're being too sensitive. It shames you. It can hype you up and say, "Oh, we're going to be your love bomb you," and then pull you down. It ticks all the boxes of a narcissist. And also, it smacks you across the face and tells you you're stupid. And then it says, "Oh, I'm just trying to keep you safe. I'm just trying to protect you." That's exactly the same toolbox as the narcissist outside. But the interesting thing is, in therapy speak, we're taught to sit down with this thing. We're taught to empathize with it and send it love. And I was like, that is the wrong approach because I have been doing that all my freaking life. And shame is not a normal emotion. Shame, it's not like anger, there's something underneath it. Shame is bottomless pit of shame. And shame is cultural implant. It's not a normal emotion. It's 100% negative. And we're told in the therapy world that there's such a thing as healthy shame when all shame is super toxic. And shame, just because shame is normalized in our culture and it's everywhere, and it's kind of the underpinning of our culture because we come our Judeo-Christian culture. It's like the idea of original sin, this individualized deed. I'm bad, I'm a sinner, and I have to forgive. That is a double bind that you can never ever get yourself out of. And in the therapy world, this is just accepted as a normal standard, but it's totally Eurocentric because in other parts of the world they don't have this type of shame. This type of shame is very much Western, this individualized shame. In other parts of the world, and also pre-Christian, in Ireland, for example, the shame, we know about shame in Ireland and guilt, but before the church came over, women could actually be leaders. There wasn't this I'm bad because I'm me shame. It was like this honor system. You have to stay with the collective and you're shamed because of what you did and you can come back in the fold. But the really corrosive thing about the Western concept of shame, this individualized shame, is that you can never get out of it. It's like you're just bad and that's the way it is. There's no getting away from that. But in the Far East, they have different type of shame again as well, that kind of honor code of shame. They don't have this individualized shame that we have here. And all shame is super corrosive. And if you look at how it's used, you'll see that it's always, and without exception, always used as a way to control people. And often it's disguised as I want to help them, I'm caring for them, but it's always about control. If there's a child here and the child is screaming and I shame them, that's to protect my comfort. That's not about the child. I'm looking after me. That's what shame is. And then I'll say, "Oh, I'm caring for you. I'm looking after you." It's a lie. It's not true. Shame is always about control. And we're kind of gaslit into believing that we need a little bit of shame in order to be a good person. And it's just not true because shame shuts down empathy. What we need is more empathy to be a good person, not less. And shame has been shown to actually shut down our ability to empathize with other people. So, yeah, that was a pretty long introduction. So yeah.
So
There's so much that I want to unpack. Go ahead, Pam. My mind has gone 100 miles an hour in every direction.
well, I
Um,
kind of want to go back to the where you talked about a covert
yeah.
narcissist.
Yes.
That one kind of stuck with me. And I love how do you recognize somebody that's a covert narcissist? Because there might be several people listening to this that are like, gosh, was my mom or my dad a covert narcissist? I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Well, it's actually quite common. They're also known as vulnerable narcissists. And we know the narcissists that are quite famous are the grandiose ones,
Yes.
like your Donald Trumps and the really obvious people. I'm
Yeah.
so great. But there's also another type, the covert narcissists are like, "Oh, poor me. I'm so poor. I'm so sad. Everything needs to happen." And it's very self-centered, but it shows up very different. It's still all about me. I have to be the center, but it shows up as a bit more vulnerable. And it's more kind of underhand, it's less obvious to the outsider or even to people inside the system because it's more like guilting and shaming manipulation. For example, my mother, when I was in Mexico years ago, she insisted that I phone her every day. And she said, if I don't do it, it's because I don't love her. And obviously, phoning her every day was not about my safety. It was about her anxiety, soothing her anxiety. So you'll get that kind of manipulation. You'll get the kind of triangulation. I talked about these narcissists using the techniques. Triangulation is one where they get someone else to phone you and pass on their message. And the inner narcissist does the same thing. It's like, look at you and look at that. Look at Pam over there. She's doing so great, and you're just a big failure. That's another that's the so our inner narcissist, that inner critical voice, it uses these same tools and it can show up really covert like the mother, like my mother, for example. Very manipulative, but very difficult to see and unobvious, very self-centered, but it just shows up different, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you said it was related to trauma. So
Yes.
so a
Yeah.
narcissist could be created through trauma that they
Yes.
experienced.
Yeah, but definitely. I mean, there is some discussion about this in the therapeutic world but I think there's definitely some evidence that a lot of it can stem from trauma. My mother, for example, she was brought up by a malignant narcissist woman, and she was actually quite sadistic. She would get my uncle, she'd sexually abuse my uncle, and she would also get him to like say very cruel things to other children and get a kind of kick out of it, which is like super weird for an adult to do.
Yeah.
So there is the narcissist in your head. It can also become very malignant. I don't know about you guys, but I've had those things where my voice was like, "You might as well not be here." You know, that's when the voice metastasizes into something malignant because we've been giving it so much rope and performing for it for so many years. It gets stronger and stronger.
Wow.
wow.
Mm,
Emma, you mentioned that 80% of households in our part of the world here in the
Yeah.
US are dysfunctional households in some way, shape, or form. I mean, that's huge when we talk about like it's one out of
Yeah.
every five households, then is what we're talking about. Or no,
Oh, yeah.
no, that's not right.
More
Four
than
out of
that.
every five. The other way.
It's
One out
well,
of
it
every
makes
five is not. Yes.
It makes a lot of sense because there's so much trauma there, and our
Yeah.
parents' generation, they didn't deal with it. They didn't have therapy. They
Right.
didn't have all the information that we have now. And
mhm.
even therapy, talking about it doesn't necessarily resolve it because and I know about this, you can really intellectualize things. You can understand, you can write a book about your trauma, you can explain it in the Freudian method and the Jungian method, and you're still stuck in that freaking trauma.
Mhm.
So intellectualizing can be a way for us to escape feeling those feelings and
Avoid it.
processing it and
Yeah,
releasing things. Yeah,
absolutely.
it can be a
Yes.
huge avoiding way. And you're just rehashing it all the time, sometimes in therapy. It obviously depends on the therapist. And obviously, it's important to be aware, but that's only step one. Then you've got to do the releasing and the rewiring of yourself for to come out of survival mode and actually receive. And this is the underlying problem, why women struggle, because women collectively, we have been scapegoated as a collective by our culture. If you think about it, women sexuality is dirty, smelly over there. Women aren't as good as men. And then you also have the groups, like the ethnic groups, like the African Americans, they've also been scapegoated as well. So if you've been scapegoated personally in your family, and you're also a member of these groups that have also been scapegoated, or you have that double whammy of trauma. So I'm not saying this is easy, but there is a way that you can get out, you can unhook yourself from this shame culture, because it is everywhere, ladies. We're swimming in shame,
Mhm.
and it's so normalized. Even when you have people like Brene Brown saying that we need a little bit of shame to not be a psychopath, it just seems like a massive blind spot to me when shame is so incredibly toxic. But it just shows you the extent to which shame has been normalized in our culture, because it's absolutely everywhere. But it's
Yeah.
always about control. If you look, even when you're shaming someone or watching some shame happening or shaming yourself in your head, it's always about control. It's never, ever about care.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I feel like with social media and with everything, it's just become so easy
Oh, yeah.
today and so much more and I would say even more so since COVID, because I think a lot of people gravitated towards social media as a form of connection because they lost that physical connection at work and everything else. And it's like, oh, I need something. And now you've got this outlet that I think, yeah, is probably, do you see an uptick in it, or do you just think that it's kind of just stayed steady?
Well, yeah, I mean, shame is definitely huge. You have the keyboard warriors. It's very easy to shame someone from behind your computer.
Yep.
And this is the thing, like I mentioned before, shame is not a normal emotion. It's not like anger or sadness, something that you need to process or sit with. The shame is it's indigestible. It's such a low vibration. It's just like above death, really.
Yeah.
It's indigestible. It's not something that we can digest and process. So we do one of two things. We find someone to project that shame onto, the next scapegoat, and this is what some scapegoats do. They find another scapegoat. So some scapegoats go on to have their own kids and scapegoat them so they don't have to feel all their shame. And you see that with women. This is why women pull each other down, because
Mhm.
we're carrying all this collective shame. And what do we do with it? She's got a big ass. She's got so many wrinkles. We criticize other women because we project our shame onto them. So because we can't digest it. Or you can internalize it and self-destruct, which is the path I was on until I woke up and started to disconnect from this inner narcissist.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Emma, it's so interesting, like when you talk about just the shame that women feel. And before we started recording, I shared that, like just starting to uncover some of the beliefs that I had or that were implanted and ingrained in me,
Mhm.
just with my upbringing. And I think it's the same. Pam and I, we probably had the same. It's when you're a young girl and it starts at such a young age, right? Like what we're
Yeah,
expected to do, how we're supposed to show up and behave when we're younger. And then as we go through puberty, like the fact that we need to hide the fact that we're going through this change of becoming a woman, that our body is
exactly.
physically changing. We've got
Yep.
to
Yeah,
cover that up. When you get to this menopausal stage of life, it's like, don't talk about menopause. That's kind of frowned upon. Don't talk
exactly.
about the wrinkles. You should cover them up. Like it's just this
Yeah.
constant, this entire
Constant
journey.
shaming. Exactly. So
Yes.
much shaming of women. It's
Yeah.
really, really obvious. Once you see, you can't unsee it.
No.
And
Right.
once you see this narcissism that's prevalent in our culture, you can't see it either. You can't unsee it either. Or the
Yeah.
narcissist that we internalize. And like I said, it's everywhere. It fractals out. You see this same kind of triangulation, the scapegoat, the victim, or
Mm-hmm.
the victimizer, the
Mm-hmm.
autocrat. You see it everywhere. Culturally, you see it between countries. You see the golden child, and how they scapegoat people, to pass on that unprocessed trauma. So it's absolutely everywhere. And it's really, really dangerous. This is why genocide is happening, you know? This is unprocessed shame, unprocessed trauma. You find another victim to pass it on to. And we have got to break that cycle.
Yeah.
And we can do it individually because God knows it's not going to happen from the top down. It's got to happen from the bottom up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and you've done that work because you've created a framework to kind of break this cycle.
I
Talk to us a
have
little bit
indeed.
about your framework that you've created, a 5-step or 5-phrase.
Exactly. It's called break. Okay, so BREAK, right?
Yeah.
So check this out. Because you know, shame comes, it like you feel it in your body. It's like, oh, you're going to be late, you're stupid, or whatever it says, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
B is the first one. You've got to break the trance. Recognize that this is not your voice, it's a spell, and you don't negotiate your way out of a spell. It's a pattern, it's a trance that you've been under. So catch it, interrupt it, just name it. This is the trance, and that disrupts the group instantly. That automatically takes it away. And also, I have to say, once you recognize that that thing is not you, because we talk about it as if it's me, it's not you. It's not you. It's a parasite. So that recognizing that has really helped me and also the women that I work with. So break that trance. Then you go on to R. You want to refuse to engage with it, right? So Dr. Ramani, who's an expert in narcissists out there in the world, she talks about deep things not to do. Don't defend, don't engage, don't explain, and don't personalize. Don't do any of that. Don't try to argue with this voice because that just gives it what's called narcissistic supply. You just say, not today, not today, bitch, not mine. It ain't happening. Then you go on to E, which is expose the lie. So call out the shame-based programming. The voice is telling me, or it's telling me that I need to shrink, that I'm no good. Recognize that this is about control. That thing, that narcissist is trying to control you. It's not your story. It's intergenerational trauma and speaking the truth disarms it because it's not true. It's full of lies, just like the narcissist outside. It's all about trying to control you. Then you want to anchor it in your body. So come back to your body, feel your breath, because when shame comes, it like attacks you. It takes you out of your body. So you got to come back to your body, feel your breath, plant your feet, say your name, the year, and just remind your nervous system, I'm safe now, I'm sovereign, and I'm here. And then K, kick it out. So shake it off, stomp it out, say it out loud. This is not mine, and reject it. That's it. You just say no to it because it has no power unless you dance for it or unless you argue with it. Just like the narcissist out there, when you argue for it or perform for it or do what it says, it's just taking your energy, taking all your life force and getting stronger and stronger. So our job is to break that pattern, and you can do it with this BREAK framework.
Thank you for joining us today on the Reignite Resilience podcast. We hope you had some aha moments and learned a few new real-life ideas to fuel the flames of passion. Please subscribe on your favorite streaming platform, like or download your favorite episodes, and of course, share with your friends and family. We look forward to seeing you again next time on Reignite Resilience.